on a DM. The over-intrusive parent of some player. I mean, if it's a tennis parent and you're the coach, yeah, can you deal with the guy? It's kind of one-on-one. Some weird Slovakian starts waving a sword in your face and suggesting, as our good friend Joe Casal mentioned, that when he was a sports agent, a guy actually waved a sword in his face and said, if you don't get my daughter a shoe deal, I'm going to chop your head off. Now, that's a little invasive, is it not? If you're the parent that's going to be influential, we all know about the proverbial mentioning the Little League again, the Little League parent. What was worse than that, Lubie?
Worse. Oh, no. The fact that they actually get into fist fights now is something I never imagined when I was a little kid.
Come out and tackle umpires. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was annoying. That was the best part about the fact that neither my mother or father really knew anything about sports. I still will never forget, literally, Lubie, getting shelled by the Massapequa All-Star team. Getting shelled. I can't get anybody out. So I'm rearing back and I'm firing. And literally, Lubie, I nearly snapped my neck watching these balls fly out of the park. So I'm down 11-0 after 2 innings, something along those lines. And I actually said to the coach, hey, listen, I can't get anybody out. You got to put somebody else in. He said, you're all we got. Finally, after losing 27-3 or something in that category, I come off, and I'm riding home. And my father says to me, you look great out there tonight. And I thought that's a lot better than what others, some of these other parents are probably feeding their kids at this point.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and the great Mike Lubie. Lubit's looking good, looking spectacular in that light blue color. I think that is you. Did Shirley pick that shirt out for you, or was that something you had in the closet before you met her?
No, we've eliminated everything I had before I met her. Yeah, she's removed the entire closet.
It wasn't like you were going to win any top fashion positions with GQ magazine or anything, but you weren't bad. Certainly compared to me. I mean, you were like George Clooney. It's a great day. It's a degenerate holiday, and it's a prelude to the biggest degenerate opportunity you could possibly have. We've said this many, many times.
Yep.
It doesn't always work out, and you can have the winner of the Kentucky Derby at a big fat price and still find ways to lose money on the race. That's very, very doable. As we know, as the professor is going to join us later on, always says it's called gambling, not winning. But if you were ever going to get your pulse revved up to get involved in a wagering opportunity, as abstract as it may seem compared to betting basketball, and can anybody really say with confidence, oh, I'm nailing the NBA every night? Do we see people that are walking out of casinos with bags full of money because they're betting NBA games? People are thinking and saying, handicappers anyway, that the NBA playoffs so far this year have been fairly predictable. Do you find that to be the case, Lubie? Fairly predictable in terms of point spread outcomes.
Yes.
And over-under totals, things that you'll be wagering on, maybe prop bets and individual players and accomplishments and achievements in a single game, over-unders on point totals and rebounds. I don't find it that way. Do you? I mean, it was predictable that the Knicks would beat the Pistons. And Knicks in 6 is probably what most people would have foreseen before the did you see the Pistons winning 2 games? They should have won 5. We'll get to that in a second, but but with the Derby coming up, this was interesting yesterday, Louie. We've been through a lot in terms of broadcasting experiences, have we not? We've had our equipment crap out, found out that we couldn't broadcast when we got to Radio Row in Minnesota, I remember.
Yes.
And you're freezing your took us off. You get in there and what are they, an hour earlier in Minnesota or 2? I think it's 1. And we're set up and looking around going, what's missing here? We have no way to communicate with the radio station. What the bleep are we going to do? We've had mad scrambles. We've been in situations where we were broadcasting from the kitchen area of a strip club. Not a particularly well-known strip club. I mean, it was Porky's, for God's sake, aptly named Porky's in Hialeah.
Yes.
And we set up in the showroom there, and we're thinking, okay, well, this will be interesting. And this was just as they were opening up, and they start blasting the music at decibel levels that would only be rivaled by what I experienced yesterday, Lubie. Are you an Aaron C. show guy? Are you inclined to go to the Aaron C.
See,
show?
when I was young, I loved it. It was hectic, but it was really cool. It would always be hot as hell, but the beach would be packed. It was like a lot of fun. I used to have a blast. I was like in high school, college.
I got a full preview of it yesterday with the Blue Angels flying over my head the entire distance of my 4 mile walk, my walk of life. I'm walking up A1A and the Blue Angels, and I'm thinking to myself, where is Doge on this? Now, I love the Blue Angels. I mean, it's exciting to think. Do you ever imagine yourself in the cockpit of one of these planes? How fast are they flying? That has to be what? If the average speed of a commercial airline, what do they go? About 500 miles an hour? A commercial airline? Is that the speed they're
Oh,
traveling at?
no idea. I can. Oh, look. Yeah, no.
If it's 1,200 miles to New York, it takes about 2.5, 3 hours. So yeah, you're thinking about 500 miles an hour would be the average speed. What are the Blue Angels flying at, Louis? Do we have any idea what kind
Oh,
of speed? Because they certainly, in terms of making noise, are right up there with any piece of equipment that you could ever find. And when you get the four of them in formation, how the hell do they do that, Louis? If you're slightly off, 550 to 600. Okay, so we weren't that far off there.
you're close. Good for you. Your degenerate math skills have come in handy.
Well, I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of degenerate math over the next couple of days here as you have the Kentucky Derby coming up, which, and I want to get to this thing about broadcast incident, but I couldn't help but mention it. This was crazy yesterday. The Blue Angels are flying right over my head the entire distance for the hour and a half it takes me to navigate my way through all of this stuff with one stop for a beer halfway through at the Bryony Pub. It was quite a show. So that's coming up over the weekend. I can't imagine. Did you ever fancy yourself doing that? I was involved in one air show. I've told the story many, many times, and it's still, I have a tough time erasing this from my horror memory bank. When my buddy who wanted to fly with the Blue Angels, we had a little video company, and we applied to fly with the Blue Angels because they were accepting applications from various media outlets in town when they had the Miami Beach Air and Sea show. It was really, really big. I'm not sure if that's a secondary consideration now to what goes on in Fort Lauderdale. There was a time there where it was suspended. I don't know, both counties, Broward and Dade County, I'm not sure, here in South Florida. So well, we don't get, they gave it to like Tony Segreto or some esteemed journalist had the opportunity to fly with the Blue Angels. And we ended up getting stuck with the French Connection, which was, we talk about Popeye Doyle, the danger that this guy was in. They don't even close the cockpit as we're taking off from the Opelika airport.
Oh, Jesus.
And then these guys were literally crazy. I mean, they're doing nosedives into the Everglades and then pulling up. You know how I used to do this daredevil stuff? I dare you, I dare you.
No.
And you come as close to doing something really stupid as you possibly could. Kind of like when Vanilla Ice was having his feet dangled off the 14th story of that hotel room from Suge Knight. And you're thinking, Suge, how far are you going to push this? There's always a chance that the shoelace breaks off, and all of a sudden, this guy's doing a nosedive 14 stories into the streets of Los Angeles.
Yep.
And so they're doing all kinds of stuff like that. They're flying upside down. And when I got out of there, literally, my hair was standing up like Don King. I'd had several wines because we forgot we were going to go flying with these guys until the last minute. We were working at the racetrack doing a TV show there. And we had a little downtime. So we're down at the bar there. And then we go, oh, bleep. We're supposed to go out to the Opelika airport and film this thing with the French Connection. We meet these two crazy people. And then the bottom line, the end of the story, of course, is unfortunately, I Googled the French Connection about maybe a year later just to see what these guys were up to. Killed in a crash in some Kansas, location in another air show that took place a few months after the one that we were flying.
Oh no.
And I was thinking, why did that come as no surprise?
Yeah, exactly.
These planes that were flying, they were crop dusters. I would feel safer leaving the airport there, North Perry Airport in Pembroke Pines, in some plane that was carrying a banner over the beach that was advertising, speaking of strip clubs, that had like porkies on it when they take off the planes. Don't they look pretty unsteady when they're flying over the beach, Louie?
100%.
Crazy, crazy stuff. So, yeah, I mean, flirting with danger, that should be a chapter in our book, Daredevil Jews. You're more inclined to engage in this kind of activity than I am.
No, I'm not a fan of any of that. My wife loves that crap. I could see Shirley liking that. I am not into any of that stuff.
All
No
right.
way.
Well,
Ugh.
you have to be somewhat of a daredevil, though, if you're betting the
Yes.
dirt.
Yeah.
All right,
Let's
so
go
we've been
for it.
trying on Bleacher Brothers, doing an excellent job. I would think of all of the websites, video stream shows, and networks that are out there. And of course, we have the great AJ Johnson has his show. He had Mark Cassie on, the trainer of Sandman. That was great. I mean, how many people around the country are pulling off guests like that, where you were really getting inside the race? We had Kate and Bradar on one of our shows. Larry Colmus was brilliant. Pete Aiello, fantastic Gulf Extreme Park track announcer. So I'd seen the Netflix feature, and it inspired me to think, hey, why don't I track down Jason Worth and see if I can get Jason Worth, the former Philadelphia Philly. He was only a one-time All-Star, Jason Worth. Great story, though. I mean, you talk about sticking with it, Luby. Was bouncing around in the minors, battled all kinds of injuries. He was very fortunate, he said. He got a one-year contract with the Phillies to be a bench player before he blossomed and became an everyday outfielder and then one of some distinction. He had 9 home runs in a postseason after winning a World Series the year before. And that led him to the Nationals, where he signed a $126 million 7-year contract
Yep.
back in like 2010, I want to say. I think
Yeah.
he went to the All-Star game in 2009. Like a year or two later, he was with the Nationals as a free agent. Signs a $126 million contract, and that's 15 years ago. So I don't know if you do the math. You talk about math. What kind of extrapolation do you have to do on that to figure out what 126 is worth today? At least double, right? When you're in that kind of category, is that not the equivalent of picking up $250 million?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not. Even when he was at his peak and he was a good player, he became an all-star. He was an all-around player. He wasn't going to get 400 or 500 million, but yeah, if he got 136 then, he probably could have gotten 225, 250 now. I mean, for sure. It's 15 years later.
So I get lucky, and this would be an interesting viewing if you're looking for a Derby preview that has an element of uniqueness to it. I get lucky, and my friend Frank Miramonte, track announcer at Saratoga, and of course, mainstay at Santa Anita there. I call him. I say, hey, I'm thinking maybe somebody in the publicity office might have a number for Jason Worth because he became a horse owner. And of course, he only had a small piece, actually, but you would have thought he owned the entire animal last year when he had Dornoch, and Dornoch is named for a city in Scotland, I believe. And he runs his horse as part of a conglomerate that owns the racehorse in the Kentucky Derby last year. The horse gets buried in the Derby. It was in the one hole, which is very prohibitive. You really have to get lucky to win from there. It's a little bit easier now than it used to be because you're not jammed on a rail. Since they put the new gate in, they extended gate. Now it goes out all 21 gate, all 20 stalls. It used to have an auxiliary gate that they would run in there, and because of that, they pushed the one hole all the way to the rail. So if your horse didn't fly out of there, it usually ended up getting buried, and you would see the look on the people's faces when they had a Kentucky Derby post position draw. It didn't matter who it was. It could have been Baffert. It could have been D. Wayne. It could have been Brad Cox. It could have been Cassie. It could have been anybody. And they go around the lunchroom there, and it's a slow process. And you're thinking, do I really want to be a part of it? I don't know, Libby. Do you like covering things that are at a pedantically slow pace? And here's number 13, Wisdom Tooth. You're like, and then people clap. It's like, what are you clapping about? The horse, some horses get a more favorable draw, but if you're buried on the rail, you see the look that the people have like casino face when it happens because they know they're finished. So Dornoch breaks from the one hole in the Kentucky Derby last year for Jason Worth, and they have a lot of video of him reacting to it, and he knows right away, tears up his tickets. It was just like as if Mush had come down the aisle there in a Bronx Tale, and as soon as Mush is going, come on, Kryptonite, whoosh, just tear him, toss him, as Chaz Palminteri suggested. So anyway, and doesn't run in a Preakness, Dornoch. And then the Belmont was being run in sort of an aberration at Saratoga last year at a shorter distance, which was also very beneficial to Dornoch because Dornoch looked like he was about to get nailed on the wire by, I think the horse's name is Mindframe, Mike Rapoli, speedball, not speedball, but steamball that was coming like a rocket. You thought he was going to pass Dornoch. And Worth ends up winning the Belmont Stakes. So he became significant in horse racing. I'm thinking, all right, This is great. He was a big feature in the Netflix series Race to the Crown. And I thought, I'll try and track him down. So Frank Mirani says, I don't need to go to the publicity office. I know the guy.
Oh, wow.
Sends me his number. And you were there with me. We were at Wicked Cheesesteaks doing the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show.
Yep.
When, after I just texted the guy in my car like 2 minutes before we got in there, not even 2 minutes into being inside, he gets right back to me and says, sure, love to do it.
Nice.
All right, now there are a couple of publicity people involved, and that they were very cooperative, but we swing and miss on the time frame that I was looking for. And then he gets back to me and says, "Yeah, I could do it this week. I'm going to be at Churchill Downs, so I'll try and figure out a time to do it."
Nice.
And I'm thinking, all right, I don't care that it's not the normally scheduled time of the show. I've been trying to get this guy on. I think he's going to be great. And let me go ahead and do an oddball version, which I was doing yesterday.
Nice.
And so he's trying to find a place where he can actually hear what I'm saying, because you know how the noise factor is at Churchill.
Yeah.
Races are in progress.
Yep.
So he ends up walking into one of the upper, society level rooms there, and it's working out fine in the beginning. And then you've been there. You see how they are. I mean, if you're in a place that you're not supposed to be,
oh no,
here's Jason Worth that has $126 million or more in the bank.
More by now, yeah.
Owned a piece of the Belmont Stakes winner, is running a horse in the Kentucky Derby, is extremely distinct. There's no way to mistake who he is.
I think he still has a beard in the hair. I don't think he's changed his look at all.
In the hair, and he's wearing a hat yesterday, and he has all kinds of crazy hats that he wears. But this hat was just a baseball cap that said, "Make horse racing great again."
Nice.
Good.
Nice.
He's not a Trump supporter, by the way, but
we can agree with that, though.
Hello. So sure enough, as he's doing the interview, we just get this thing going, and you know the nervousness that is involved in these sort of things. I mean, you got guys waiting on you. They're okay. You can go now, and then he doesn't really appear right away, and you're sitting there, kind of treading water, saying, "Well, we're gonna have Jason Worth, I think
it's gonna work." Yep.
Pops up, doing great. And these guys tried to kick him out of the room because they thought he didn't belong there. They didn't recognize he was a World Series champion in 2008, filthy effing rich, owns a horse in the Derby, one of 20 guys.
Yeah.
Well, there are multiple owners on a lot of horses, but one of the 20 horses in the Derby is owned. He owns a substantial portion, I believe, 50%.
Oh, nice.
Flying Mohawk.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't even know was in the Derby, by the way.
You know what I do now.
I didn't imagine that he even had another horse in there. And who ever heard of Flying Mohawk? He's 30-1. Oh, wow. But Worth is such a character and recognizable. This is the kind of guy that you want to have on a program. And he's very down to earth in his comments. And it's not even a rags to riches story. It's a riches to riches story. Some people just have luck, and you need luck in this life, Lubie.
100%.
You need luck. And the Derby, as a real astute handicapper, texted me yesterday. I asked him who he liked in the Derby. My friend Dylan Rossi, who cashed that ticket for $90,000 on that big parlay.
Yep.
And he says, as we know, it's 95% luck.
Yeah.
95% luck.
Derby?
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe he has a shot. But can you imagine during the broadcast? We had that happen once before where Grant Long was on with us, but he was on the phone. He wasn't on video.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing an interview with us, and he gets stopped by the cops.
Yes.
In a blatant incident in Michigan of racial profiling.
It was 100% because he wasn't speeding.
Doing nothing.
Wasn't doing because he was on with us, so he wasn't like going. We had to hear him and stuff.
They see a black guy in Michigan, and I would imagine he drives somewhat of an upscale vehicle. The guy was 15 years in the NBA.
He's made good money.
Black guy. He's on the phone, and they're thinking he's making a drug deal, and they stop him.
It was definitely DWB. I don't know to what extent. I don't think they roughed him because he got back on the phone with us. We finished. I remember finishing the interview.
Yeah. He's being arrested. That's where I didn't arrest him. That was good.
Oh, no.
And to Worth's credit, I mean, you talk about being a down-to-earth guy. He just, instead of saying, hey, listen, I can't do this right now. This isn't working out. Thanks very much. I appreciate the offer. I'll come back and do it another time. Yeah. He just keeps going while they're throwing him out.
He went through it. I love it. That's great. Good for him.
And then stayed on for like another 20 minutes. So if you want to catch that, that's Conversations up on Bleacher Brothers. You can catch it on YouTube. And Really fun. Great guy. Do I have to put money on Flying Mohawk now? Because people are probably
I'd like to. Yeah, honestly. When you talk to the owner.
don't know that you can. I mean, you really have to convince yourself to like this horse. Worth is going to send it in, but I don't know about anybody else. But that's what makes this such a beautiful opportunity. You have 20 entities, lots of possibilities. You know you're going to get some form. Rarely do you see chalk come in the Kentucky Derby, even if the favorite wins, which is rare. Often the favorite is not a prohibitive favorite. You're catching journalism, I think, is still somewhere around 3-1, and they're going to be, in all likelihood, the post-time favorite, the horse from California, and maybe deservedly so. I think has the highest speed figures. But interesting development in the Derby, and also eligible horse who was just barely beaten by journalism in an all-out drive to the wire and a real incredible effort. Also a lightly raced horse named after, I would imagine, the great jockey Braulio Baeza. The horse's name is Baeza, Lubie.
Okay.
Draws into the race. And I believe changes the dynamic, although I'm thinking Baeza is going to have to vie for the lead with several other horses in this race. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully you guys will make some winning wagers there. If you're looking for a hunch bet, check out the interview with Jason Worth. A lot of fun. And watch a guy actually being accosted out of the room that he's in while being an owner of. What room was he in that he couldn't stay there?
I don't know.
And this is some waiter that's telling him to get the
Yeah, it's like, dude, just let him finish what he's doing, then we'll get out. So
he's saying, I'm doing an interview, a live interview on a video right now. And they're like, no, you got to go. You got to go. You can't stay there.
Yeah, okay.
Crazy. It wasn't like he was in the way either. I mean, the guy's sort of hiding out in a corner, but that was good stuff. A lot of fun. The Kentucky Derby. You've been there. What was your thought on the Kentucky Derby? You were reluctant about the experience because it's not your game, horse racing, but
I'm always open to do something in the sports world, so I was open to it. I didn't know what to expect. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I mean, especially from our perspective, we were able to like walk down the back stretch. Like we literally were like to get to our seats, we walked across the track.
Yes,
like on race day. Like, and it wasn't even like, I guess because it was still early afternoon, but it wasn't like in the morning. Like they were going to use that for the Derby, and there wasn't a lot of people walking across it, but people were. So we were like, okay. It was like when we were on the court for the Final Four. It was like, I don't think we're supposed to be here, but no one's. It was the opposite of Worth. Like we definitely weren't supposed to be there, and no one was stopping us.
Act like you belong is the name of the game.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it's just different, and like people, because here it's already warm. It's the weather. I mean, supposedly it's going to rain, so that sucks. But for us, the weather was spectacular. It was like cool. Everyone's dressed in like suits, and like
all the women look great.
Women look insane, and the people are super nice. Everyone's getting wasted, but it's not like sloppy. They're like classy. It was just like I ended up in some like box somehow, and like with all these rich people, and everyone was super nice. Like it was a really weird. Like you came from a different era. Like the era I came from is very standoffish in sports, and it had a very different feel than other sporting events. Like I've been to the finals with a credential, and people are looking at you weird. Like everyone was like, from my perspective, at least super open, super accepting, because I didn't know what the hell I won, and I didn't even know I won. This lady is like, you won. I was like,
you didn't know you won?
Because all the colors
because you can't see who's who.
All the horses are together, and like you couldn't see the numbers.
Yeah.
So they were going by the silks. Like the lady owned horses. So she was like she trained horses in Kentucky and was like 5 generations. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what the hell to look at. And she's like, the silks. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell. What do you mean the silks? Like it was a really cool experience. And I know the general
Animal Kingdom, was that the horse you won?
It was Animal Kingdom, yeah. Paulie Man gave it, and I put in action for everyone, and I was like, I'm writing Paulie Man. Like he had been on a really good streak at that point.
Oh yeah, he had hit the previous one with Super Saver. Then I do remember being in Vegas, and I'll have another one, and the only guy that had it was our friend PC, who was at the bar getting hammered as we were there at the Mirage, a great place to watch the race. It was great. Everybody's throwing parties. It's a heck of a lot of fun. Okay, good. We do have the professor standing by here, and we want to get into some of the things that happened last night as well. Let's bring in a professor. I don't know if he was involved. Were you watching NBA action last night, Professor, before we continue here with our thoughts about the Derby and the big board?
I mean, as much as I could take of it, which in this first round has not been much. But yeah, I caught the end of the Knicks game and a little bit of the start of the other one.
Disaster for the Detroit Pistons. They're up 7 with 2 minutes and 6 seconds to go.
It was like
I mean, at this point, if you're Detroit and you've been a basketball desert for like a decade, you made the playoffs, you got a nice, young star to build around, and you were competitive in the first round with a team that, had much bigger expectations than you did. I don't think that's like a terrible ending is the Miami Heat, who, missed the lottery, which they probably needed to be in, and then go into the first round and just get jackhammered. And I'm not saying Cleveland's not legit. Maybe Cleveland is legit, and we'll discover that as these playoffs go along. But we're not 100% sure. Cleveland is like this buzzsaw team.
Yeah.
And every scenario like in game 1, Tyler Hero was really, really good. Like Tyler Hero was about as good as you can possibly expect him to be, and you still got drilled. In game 2, Cleveland a little off, and you still got drilled. And then game 3, or excuse me, with game 4, like
both
wow,
games.
like that's the game where you get the gentleman sweep instead of the sweep. But no, you were down 50. It was like 80-30 or whatever the hell it was. 70-20
college basketball score.
I mean, not just college basketball, a woman.
It was like a women's college basketball score. It was like UConn.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to walk away from, shaking your head. If you're the Detroit Pistons, particularly where your franchise has been for a while, I'm walking away feeling okay. I mean, we're already talking about an Eastern Conference where there's, possible Giannis trades. From what I read, the Celtics are, thinking about making some pretty big moves this offseason. So we'll see.
They're going to have to.
What's going to happen with that. I mean, yeah, Cleveland's young, but it's Cleveland. Like, they're going to screw it up somehow over the next couple of years. It's Cleveland sports. It's what they do.
Be right back in the gutter is what you're saying.
Yeah, so if you're a couple of these younger teams, Orlando and Detroit, I would be feeling pretty good about the future. You got nice young stars to build around. Yeah. I will tell you, Cade Cunningham is a lot further along than I would have thought he would have been coming out of college, particularly as a scorer.
For the last 2 years.
He was not – he was a great driver of the basketball and a great passer for a guy his size, but I thought he was going to be like a Steve Smith. I thought he was going to be, that guy who's like 18 points a game, but also helps you in a lot of other ways. As a scorer, he's a lot more developed within a couple of years than I ever thought he'd be.
Didn't see that. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday. Cade Cunningham, good freshman year, promising player, but the Pistons, as usual, with no luck. We were mentioning the Elgin Baylor syndrome. They get the number 1 pick finally to fall their way in a year where there really wasn't any generational type player or somebody like Lubie is always pointing out, Wembanyama or somebody like that, where Kareem, where the next guy up is Neil Walk. And, if you don't, at that time, they had the coin flip to determine who was
but I mean, you look at the history of the lottery. If there is that guy in the draft, it seems like every time either Orlando or San Antonio is going to win the lottery.
Isn't that amazing? Yes.
Like San Antonio's only been in the lottery 3 times. And they got David Robinson and Tim Duncan and Wembanyama. Orlando's been in 4 times, and they got Shaq and Chris Webber / Penny and Dwight Howard, who fell just short of like that generational top, but is still like borderline Hall of Fame.
Sure.
And now Banchero is another guy,
number 1,
much further along than I thought he would be at this point, looking like he could be legitimately, be a Hall of Fame kind of player. So, yeah, if that guy's in the draft, it's pretty much the Spurs and the Magic are going to win the lottery. Everybody else is going to get like the Michael Ololo candies and the Cade Cunningham. I'm not that Cade Cunningham's not turning out to be a very nice player. He is, but it's, a level down.
Yeah. I have to let Lubie tee off on the Knicks because he hates them. But we have to preface this by saying that Jalen Brunson wins Clutch Player of the Year. I mean, how close did that final shot resemble the Byron Russell, Michael Jordan?
What kind of dumb award is that? Like,
okay, thank you. Because my Knicks fan friends,
I just made that award up. Like, and honestly, usually when you think of somebody as clutch, when somebody has a clutch reputation, the stats show that it's exactly the opposite of that. Like for years, in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like the two clutch guys were Chauncey Billups, Pistons fans,
Yes.
and Kobe Bryant. And then the numbers came out. It turned out they were literally the two worst players in the league, taking last second shots. Like
Big shot
literally,
Bob would be better, huh?
like Billups was like 12% and Kobe was like 14. They were literally like the two were like, again, I think that's a dumb award. The clutch player of the year award. What the hell does that mean?
We need to unleash Lubie because we always have to get a barometer on how much he actually hates the Knicks.
Oh, I despise them.
Which you get your wish. In all likelihood, they lose.
I hate the Celtics too. Like this is like a Subway series for me. Like I usually hate like this series. I grew up hating the Jazz and the Bulls, but I hated the Bulls so much that I could root for the Jazz. Like this is not that. Like when the Yankees and Mets played, I despised both teams equally.
Wait,
I did not
why
watch.
Did you hate the Jazz? Like that's a really random.
I just didn't like how they played. I don't know. It was boring, and they got away with a lot. Like Stockton and Malone would. I never liked the guys that's why I hated Jordan. Like he got away with friggin' everything. I just never liked that. That's why
now you don't like Floppy McBrunson. I mean,
exactly. So that's the problem. It's like
Brunson looks like a Dutch soccer player out there. The way he goes.
I wouldn't mind these Knicks actually, because Ken and I talked about it, and he's not wrong. Like the Knicks have been down so long, and he'd have won so much that the disparity is far enough where I actually wouldn't hate the Knicks. But the way Brunson plays is so tough. It's like he grew up binge watching James Harden and Manu Ginobili, and it's like, how do I take it to another level? So it's just hard to watch someone flop that way. Like he flops when he has the ball and there's no one near him.
Okay, so Lubie and I have had this discussion. Like this whole South Florida thing that is deeply ingrained, where we're like supposed to have these vicious, hated rivalries with the New York City teams, is the most pointless freaking thing in the history of sports rivalries, because there's no point in hating any of these teams. Like, what's the point of hating the New York Jets? It's like hating the Jerry's kids. Like, they're this super loser franchise that haven't done anything since Joe Namath was there. And on top of it, they're like, an even worse version of the Dolphins. Like, whoever they take in the first round of the draft, it's going to be not just wrong, but like wildly wrong. The most New York Jets draft pick of all time was taking Kyle Brady with the 9th pick. And 3 of the next 10 guys turned out to be, it was Warren Sapp, Ty Law, and Derek Brooks were like 3 of the next 10, like first, not just Hall of Famers, but like first ballot Hall of Famers guys. And when they take quarterbacks, it's even worse. Like the second they traded up to take Mark Sanchez, like this is just going to be horrible. Like everything the Jets. What is the point of hating the
Zach
New York
Wilson?
Jets?
I don't know. Look
the Islanders, and yes, I know in like the early '80s, 3 state cups. But in the time the Florida Panthers have existed, the Florida Panthers are so much better of a franchise than the Islanders. Honestly, they're like one of the most pathetic franchises in all of sports, and I'm including MLS teams. Like, okay, you want to hate the Yankees, fine. Hate the Yankees. Half the world does. I personally think if you look at the history for the last 20 years, the Red Sox are much more the evil empire than the Yankees. But if you want to hate the Yankees, go. Look, I'm biased. Like, I like Judge. I mean, the fact that he's this 7-foot Adonis of a man whose favorite thing in life is a dachshund named Gus totally makes him appealing to me. So I don't hate Judge. But if you want to hate the Yankees, fine. There's a point in hating it. And the Knicks have had like one moment ever. And it was in, 1971?
73, yeah.
73. Okay, like the year I was born. It's literally 52 years ago.
They went in 69 and 73. I think that was good.
I mean, come on. They had Ewing for 20 years, and they sucked the whole time. The one time they got into the finals, they got smoked by a Houston team that was literally like Hakeem Olajuwon had 4 guys from the YMCA. Like,
I mean, that was the Knicks too.
You're like punching guys who are in wheelchairs at this point, hating these New York City teams. Like, if you're a Dolphins fan, if you want to hate the Bills, okay, hate the Bills. Like, they've been to 17 Super Bowls. They've lost them all, but whatever. If you want to hate and their fans really are just obnoxious, horrible people with the the jumping off onto tables, that they're awful. So you want to hate the Bills, hate the Bills. You want to hate the Patriots? I mean, that's like hating Russia. Like, you should hate in basketball. If you wanted to hate Michael Jordan's Bills, yeah, go ahead. I mean, Bulls, go ahead and hate them. Like, they always won. If you want to hate the Celtics, yeah, they've got like 97,000 banners. Great. And Jason Tatum's probably the most annoying personality in the history of the NBA, just because he wants to be the star that he's not so badly. It's just like you could smell the pick-me coming off of Jason Tatum. You want to hate those teams? Cool. Go ahead and hate those teams. But like this weird thing in South Florida where like our rivals or whatever team is from New York City is so freaking pointless. It's like, okay, great. So you hate the worst thing there is.
They suck. Why would you hate
Very, very misguided emotion.
Right. It's like, oh, I hated ice cream flavor. Which flavor? Rum raisin. Oh, okay. So you hate the pointless flavor that nobody ever orders anyway. Like, it's like saying I hate the Filet-O-Fish. Okay, well, but nobody likes the Filet-O-Fish. Don't you ever see anybody ever, other than Trump, I guess, is trying to bring it back. Like, but nobody else ever eats the Filet-O-Fish. Like,
no,
that's a disaster. Right?
Yeah, like if your rival is the Knicks, okay, so you're going to win a first-round series. Who the hell cares? It's a first-round series.
All right. Well, you spared Lubie having to go through.
Oh yeah, no, I told him he's right.
I mean,
all right, we're going to come back. The professor has a big board for us.
You got some derby picks for me, I hope.
You know what? I'm still,
and not Jason Worth's horse. Like, come on.
No, I would believe that horse has zero chance.
I mean, I admire Jason Worth because it seems like he wastes like $1 million a year just to put Triple Crown horses.
No, he's come out
chance
of
winning.
He's come out of this way ahead. Way ahead.
And by the way, I'm not surprised someone kicks him out because I assume he still looks like homeless Jesus.
Yes, he looks half homeless.
So, like, I'm not surprised.
He looked like a guy that might not have belonged there, but
yeah.
But you really have to be careful who you kind of cast those kind of aspersions towards, because you never know. And it turns out this guy's
particularly with baseball players, because a lot of them look like homeless people. But if I'm assuming he still looks relatively like.
Oh no, he's got the hair down, past his shoulders.
Right. So, like, if you saw him in a room, you're not assuming he's doing an interview. You're assuming he's there.
You're thinking, why is this guy in the gold room? Exactly.
All
right, we're going to come back with the professor and the big board in a moment here on the Defo Show. Good roll there, Professor. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:44.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453.
You went ahead and took a shot with Justin Rose?
I do every tournament. You know that.
Every tournament you take him. I don't
know. He's my. I mean, it used to be Oosthuizen, and then he doesn't play anymore. My basic theory is, like, I hate to bet the favorites.
If Scotty Scheffler won 9 tournaments, which he did last year, but you would be barely breaking even with him if you bet him in every tournament. Barely breaking even if you bet him at 4-1 or less.
This is why my
hope. 9 times, an incredible 9 times.
This is why my hope is that there will be some member of the Augusta police force who looked at Scotty Scheffler and sees a man for who he is, which is a scumbag who drags cops behind his car for no reason and shoots Scotty Scheffler in the parking lot like he deserves. That would be the
Or at
the
least
best outcome
teases him.
for those
Yeah,
of us
that
who
would
did
be
bet
great.
the dentist, is if a cop takes revenge for his brother law enforcement who got dragged behind a car by Scotty Scheffler last year. Unfortunately, they've switched the Doral event to a Live Tour event because I
Yeah.
was fully prepared to go there and plant some crack in Scheffler's rental car, and they call the cops and tell them I saw him selling it at a school zone. But
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz and the professor joining us on a Degenerate Friday. Big board on the horizon. Did you come up with anything yourself on the Derby? Anybody have any selections here for us? As
I mean, from what I read, it seems like it's Chalk City, USA.
it
In
never
terms
is,
of
though.
what
We
the
know that.
experts are picking. So
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about this one, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the Derby. Like inevitably, one of the favorites gets a horrible trip.
Some
Yeah.
bomb
Yeah.
along in time.
And some bomb who nobody's looking at, makes a huge run. So, we'll see.
I go with the same strategy every year. At least it begins with that, and that is the 5-horse trifecta box, where
Okay.
you have the opportunity.
I mean,
if you're convinced that the chalk will be a part of it, you can throw them in there and hope they don't make it into the top 3. And you always have to include a couple of balloons. But I've heard opinions from a lot of different people, and all of them were unconvincing. Although everybody that's any kind of a handicapper usually starts and prefaces their remarks by saying, well, I'm going to try and take a stand against the favorite here, which is journalism. So
the
in those
favorite's the one that won the
circumstances where it's
San
across the
Anita
board,
Derby.
they usually end up just jogging at that point. But we certainly have, I mean, they're of the 20 horses. What, I don't know, 15 could be in the money probably, and you might find 5 throwouts. Although Flying Mohawk would probably be the easiest of those to identify. So
I mean,
what?
the favorite's the one that won the Santa Anita Derby, right?
Journalism, yeah.
Okay.
And people are rooting for journalism, but I think
Is it actually going to be the favorite though? Because I feel like it's the Kentucky Derby. It's
Yeah, I
a
think
bunch
so.
of rich Southern people there betting, and like you could not pick the name based on a profession more than that they hate more these days than
Oh, no
journalism.
doubt.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like if you go up into the Millionaires Row, it's just going to be people saying fake news, don't bet on journalism. I feel like that horse might just randomly go off at like 8-1 because Mattress Mac bets $50 million against it.
Will the MAGA hat be the most popular hat on Derby Day?
No, because the chicks want to show out with the hats, but like I feel
Well,
like
I mean, among male,
the males, it's a
goers.
possibility, right? I mean, that's
red
kind of
hair.
the target demo, right?
I would think so. The omen, the sign from the gods of gambling, is that the producer of 60 Minutes resigned in a fit over journalistic integrity, which should be greatly admired because he didn't want to be compromised. Paramount looking to go ahead and sell off their interest, and the Redstones are involved in a major piece of litigation that would probably go against them if they continued to sustain their attacks on the Trumpster on 60 Minutes. And so the guy said, hey, if I can't do this fairly, then I'm just not going to do it. And so he quit. So I'm thinking that was the end of journalism as we know it. I mean, whatever the last bastion of journalistic integrity was, part of it went out the window when this guy resigned. So we'll see what happens. And Scott Pelley, I'm surprised he still has a job because he's on 60 Minutes trashing the management of the parent company.
He was honest, yep.
And said,
I
hey,
mean, maybe not, because if you like me, if you watch Last Week Tonight, like John Oliver devotes like 5 minutes a show of just attacking HBO and AT&T and his sponsors of the people who sign his checks every week. Now it's a comedy show, so it's a little different, but
that's a little bit of leverage.
Maybe that works. Maybe people, that makes you credible when you go after
the fact that Pelley's crawling into foxholes in the
I know you personally do not endorse that strategy because we've come into that a few times over the years. I'm sorry, right. Arby's.
That's my favorite bet, the over-under and the number of cars that'll be in the Arby's drive-thru, and the over-under is usually set
2.5.
At the top, when it's high, it's like 1 and a hook. Yeah. You came up
just the drive-through. I meant the total the total number of cars, including the parking lot and the drive-thru, is 2.5. Lubie and I down in Key Largo visiting CJ one time noticed an Arby's that always had like 5.
Oh,
And
yeah,
we were
wow.
like, that's the busiest Arby's in
Yeah, they're
America.
like stressing out.
Like the dude on the Arby's grill is like, I'm getting crushed.
Hey, we need some help here. We want to get to a big board here. And
All right, we do have one thing
Yes.
from a handicapping perspective,
Mhm.
and that is everybody in the world is pointing to a progressive pope to follow in the footsteps of the last pope. But I think that the Catholic Church is going to swerve here, and they're going to go back to someone much more like the Nazi pope two popes ago. And remember, when I say that, that is not me denigrating him. The man was a member of the Hitler Youth.
No, he was. No.
So
he was a guy
I'm looking at 2 guys here. One is Peter Erdo, who I
Mhm.
believe is Turkish and is known as an arch conservative within the church, currently sitting at plus 1100. I think you could see and then
they're getting. They
Robert-
They're handicapping the
Robert
field of
Ra,
possible
who
popes.
brings a double that he is the Archbishop of Northern Africa, and he is an arch conservative. If you've seen the look on this guy's face, this is the black African guy who's got that John Amos on Good Times look, where he's just always angry about something for no reason.
Yeah.
He's got that
Yep.
face, like how, and he's got that look that like the African warlords get, where like, how dare you question anything I say? Except he's that way about traditional Catholic values. So those are my 2 picks for future Pope: Robert Serra and Erdo from Turkey.
What are the odds on the Turkish entry?
Plus 1100 on him and plus 700 on Serra. I think that we're going to see a Catholic swerve here and them go conservative, liberal, conservative, much like, the United States sort of did. And let's be honest, like these conservative angry types are having a moment all across the world. And I think the church might just ride that wave. And remember, Steve Bannon has spent most of the last 6 years in Italy after leaving America. So another indication to me, look for the church to go with the longer conservative shots pick here.
And who wants to
on
play
the next Pope?
Yeah, the race for the Pope. All right, due to time considerations.
For Andy who's commenting, you can parlay that with under 2.5 cars at your local Arby's.
Let's get to it, the big board. And here great. Bill Belichick's girlfriend, who appears to be a woman of questionable virtue.
I'll be a little careful with this one because we were, of course, operating on new instructions.
Yes.
And I don't know what terms we can and cannot use that are synonyms for like the word gold digger or prostitute or escort. I assume those 3, because they're clinical, are so we're going to avoid some of the more controversial terms.
Very good.
And we're going, who appears to be a woman of questionable virtue.
Here we go.
That's yep.
Of course, this girl, Jordan Hudson, has been all over the news this week.
Mhm.
Basically, it's just her and the gorilla. And the question, of course, who would win a fight between 100 Jordan Hudsons and a gorilla? My money, 100% on 100 Jordan Hudsons. I may be confusing those 2 topics. But she's been everywhere this week. And we're going to break the big board of Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick and their relationship, which seems interesting.
Yeah,
here we go.
We'll start with bonus slide, which was sort of the last story to come out this week, which is, since starting to date Bill Belichick, let's remember she is 24 years old.
Mhm.
She has accumulated a real estate portfolio in excess of $8 million in the last 18 months.
Jesus Christ.
Now, for those of you who just haven't bothered to do the math, that's $444,000 a month.
Oh my
that
God.
Bill Belichick has apparently either signed off on credit or, been a co-signer on loans. Because as far as we can tell, this woman has absolutely no money. In fact, her parents ran a fishing business that went bankrupt, and her mom now has the most interesting job in the world. She owns and operates a sex toy store that is also a sex toy museum. Because
Oh my God. How did
apparently people want a museum of sex toys. I can't. Honestly, I don't even want to know what sex toys like the 1700s were. I bet they were just amazingly painful. Like, I can't imagine any. I bet they look more like torture devices. But yes, she has a master real estate portfolio that is in her name, mind you. not in their names together, just in her name,
Oh
of
my
more
God.
than $18 million in
Big.
18 months. Again, that's $444,000 a month per relationship. If you assume that they're going at it every single day, which is 73 years old for Bill Belichick, let's just say that seems extremely unlikely. That would be $14,000 a bang that Bill Belichick
By
is
the way,
contributing. And by the way, $8 million. And you notice these are like 3 regular houses and a shack that is
Oh,
apparently
really?
on Cape Cod. So I guess
That's
it's probably the
funny.
property itself
She's
that's
24.
valuable. But these 3 houses are the $8 million. Man,
Hmm.
what the hell is going on with real estate in Boston? Because that does not look like $8 million worth of house to me.
Not
I
even
don't care
here.
if this one is on the middle of Millionaires Row here in Lighthouse Point, directly on the beach. Like, I'm not paying millions of dollars for that little shack. That looks awful.
What is it? How's that millions of
yeah,
dollars?
it looks like it could be
Even
San Francisco if there
In
was a show
Miami,
there.
exactly. Even
All right,
Miami.
$8 million worth of houses in 18 months spent by this Hudson woman.
And that is the bonus just to set the background here. And let's get into it. Number 5. Remember, she's only 24 years old. Before Bill Belichick, who she's been
no.
dating for 18 months. When she was 20, she began a relationship with this man who is a 64-year-old who runs old people homes.
Oh, Jesus.
Which, I'm not trying to draw conclusions, but if you're a 20-year-old and Steve Bannon's twin brother who runs old people homes
Yeah.
is your college boyfriend,
Yeah, what is that?
I'm saying that's indicative of,
Yeah.
let's just say, a certain personality type.
Yeah. Yep.
woman of poor virtue. Yes.
Like you are definitely gearing towards a certain type. And by that, I mean rich old men who are in stressful jobs, or in this guy's case, because of his big fat face, not necessarily the best physical shape. So rich old men who are likely to die soon. Basically,
Belichick.
your type.
Seems to be a pattern there. Yes.
Well, of course, Belichick. The guy's like human stress ball. He's never been happy for 3 seconds in his life.
It's stressful.
And what was up with that shirt?
Yeah,
That looked like my Go Saint shirt that I wore
Exactly.
for 10 years. Yeah.
Exactly.
we're going to actually get to that later in the
Oh,
book.
okay. Yeah, that
That's
makes sense.
number 5.
But let's go to number 4, which is, while she is being Bill Belichick's Girl Friday press agent, whatever the hell, assistant coach and offensive coordinator, who the hell knows what title she is currently holding at the University of North Carolina. Also, she is running for Miss Maine for the 2nd consecutive year.
What?
Which,
That's
what the
desperation.
hell? Like,
Not near me.
for those of you who don't know, she's actually spent all week releasing documents on Instagram that supposedly Bill Belichick wrote, that everybody who knows Bill Belichick says, no, there's no way in hell he wrote that.
Oh my God, really?
And she reactivated her Twitter for the first time in 6 years to do nothing but repost tweets in support of herself.
Oh my
Well,
God.
she is currently running for Miss Maine for the 2nd consecutive years.
Oh my
The
God.
last Miss Maine, not to disparage her physicality, but had the face of a moose.
Which again,
So you would have to think that it's a
like,
fairly
well,
easy
actually, I'm not
to
going to lie. Other women are not fond of this young woman. I've had a lot of women tell me, for 24 years old, that's a hard-looking 24. Had like 3 or 4 different women say, "Woo, she's got a hard look to her for 24 years old." Which I'm not gonna lie, for you look at her and you really do think probably more like 34 than 24. She is a hard 24, which again, if you lead a certain lifestyle, that does tend to develop a hard look over the years.
All right.
And that takes us to number 3, which is actually being publicly spoken about, although on an anonymous basis, and people are wondering what the hell her role in the University of North Carolina staff is at this point.
Yeah, it's weird.
To the point that people in the athletic department expressed to TMZ Sports and to Yahoo Sports a concern that other staff members have to communicate with Bill Belichick through her.
No.
Which, like, if your defensive backs coach and recruiting coordinator has to go talk to Jordan Hudson before taking a scouting trip to St. Thomas, I'm going to say that's a problem. Like, and more strange, although not necessarily concerning, it came out this week, and this was sourced by Sports Illustrated, by like 3 other major sources, that someone at NFL Films told them we were going to do Hard Knocks at the University of North Carolina this year, and we dropped the project because of her insistence on being involved in the show.
Wow.
Which, I mean, if you watch Hard Knocks, it's pretty much straight football. Like, was she going to be the defensive line coach for Hard
Yeah,
Knocks
what's she gonna do?
just so she could get on the show? Like, what was her role going to be on this show?
It would have
I
been
mean-
interesting, though, to see, like we've seen in scenes on Hard Knocks, so where they're at that meetings, and she's the go-between. That, as you said, the DC has to go and approach her just to get a chance to talk to Belichick.
And again, this is a North Carolina spring practice, by the way, that this picture's taken her.
Why is
where
she
you
there?
see her talking to Belichick, dressed in what looks to be a winter coat with a very mini skirt and Nancy Sinatra boots
It's
on
not
the
like she's
field
Beverly Schnellenberger on the sideline.
during practice.
Yeah, but they're never at practice. The wives are involved. They're not at practice. Like, that's weird.
Again,
She's not a wife. She's like
she
a new
seems
girl.
to be involved in the football part of the football operation.
Yeah, that's weird.
To a very strange degree for a girl whose entire background in the sport of football is that she was a cheerleader for Bridgewater State. And honestly, I got to be honest, if anybody should know, I should. I don't even know if Bridgewater State plays football. Like,
Or
I
at
know
what
being a
level? Yes.
cheerleader at Bridgewater State, maybe you cheer at lacrosse games for all I know.
She's wearing an outfit, too. It looks like she popped out of a birthday cake or something.
Yeah, what do we do?
Again, weird winter coat, super mini skirt combination,
Yeah, I wonder
along with the Nancy Sinatra boots to be walking on a football field. I would think that, knee-high vinyl boots with 6-inch heels would be awkward to be walking on the football field.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's number 3. Number 2.
Number 2, and this is what started all of this, which is the CBS interview, which was the worst look since Robin Givens drugged Mike Tyson. For Walter's interview. For those who don't know, CBS's major point was that she kept interrupting the interview, and then when the reporter asked Belichick where they met, you could see her sitting on the side here and very loudly and clearly said, "We are not talking about this." Now,
she said that. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it
there's a
was him.
story that has been released dozens and dozens of times that they met on an airplane flight and had a fascinating conversation about philosophy and football and then kept in contact. Like, that story's been told 1,000 times. Why are you worried that this story is going to get told again? Is it because it's a 73-year-old man who might let something leak?
Yeah, it's a lie. Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah, it's a lie.
That's a very odd look. Now, people have defended her, and notably comedian Nikki Glazer, who has said that's what PR people are supposed to do. Like, keep the interview on track. She's just playing his PR.
No way. You're
But
never.
here's my question. If she's playing his PR role,
She
how
sucks.
did she let him show up for an interview on CBS morning television, CBS Sunday morning, wearing a Navy sweatshirt with holes in it? Like, I would think if you're a PR person, Bill, ditch the homeless person sweatshirt is the first thing a PR person does. Maybe put a shirt with a collar on, Bill. Maybe
Yeah.
put a North Carolina shirt on. Just saying. A 75-year-old Navy sweatshirt with a giant hole in the shoulder. That seems like something the PR person would do, not try to control the flow of questions coming from CBS This Morning reporter.
PR people are never heard. In radio interviews, once in a while, they'll cut in on the phone things. But in TV, you don't hear them. If you hear them on the thing, they won't be working for that person anymore. Like, that's not a PR person. That's a joke.
That was classy. No, the shirt was a shocker. You would have thought the couple would have just said, "Hey,
As
listen,
you
Bill,
said, it looks
did
like
you
your
forget to bring your
Saints
shirt? We'll lend you one here."
It looks like your Saints Super Bowl shirt that you wore 150 days a year for 10 years.
That thing was great, man. I could whistle and it would just, come and jump right over my shoulders there. No, that was a bit of a shocker, especially since you were so sensitive about a story, as you said, Professor, that everybody. I mean, unless that story was a total fabrication,
It's fake. It's fake. Yeah.
and there was some other thing that she was afraid Bill and Lo was going to reveal, that they met at maybe that Asian spa when Robert Kraft was there.
Given her first boyfriend, it has been widely speculated that they met on a website that people might not approve of.
Yeah,
in
that's
general.
what-
She was afraid that in his senility he was going to spill the beans, and not
100%.
realizing to stick to the story. And it did. It looked very much like a catatonic Mike Tyson sitting there getting emasculated by Ruth Roper and Robin Gibbons with the Barbara Walters interview. One of my favorite scenes ever in the history of sports. And this one was right there with it. All right, number one. This is going to be hard to top.
Number one, and this is the key question in all of this. How do we feel when bad things happen to horrible people? And really, this is a long-running favorite subject, phrased in 1,000 different ways on the internet question that basically comes down to the theme of how are we supposed to feel about it when bad things happen to horrible people? I would relate it back to the original question, which is if you could go back in time, would you go back in time and smother baby Hitler in his crib? Which I've always said 100%. Yes, I would. To this, it's Hitler. Even if it's baby Hitler, stick the pillow over his face. It's the same thing. If you go back in time and stop Bill Belichick from dating a 24-year-old escort who's going to steal all his money, $8 million at a time in houses, would you stop that? I kind of think I wouldn't. I mean, like,
I wouldn't.
I've seen
Let it happen.
I've seen Steve Belichick. If like she steals all the money and Steve doesn't get any of it, I'm not really gonna feel bad for him about that. So if she gets in the will and then murders him 30 days later, am I gonna feel bad about that? Not really. I mean, what's the downside here? It's going to be a huge embarrassment for University of North Carolina football. Oh no, not the Tar Heels being humiliated on a national stage. I would feel just terrible about that.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta say, as much as I don't necessarily like or approve of this young woman, I'm not seeing a lot of negatives here.
and in reference to your illustration here with Bill Belichick holding a fishing pole. You're thinking maybe it is time to cut bait there with North Carolina.
Again, one of two things. It's either going to be a disastrous embarrassment for Bill Belichick, or it's going to be a disastrous embarrassment for North Carolina, University of North Carolina. Neither of those are a bad outcome for me.
Maybe part of this is why the NFL decided, hey, that's it, Bill.
Also been wildly speculated that during the round last year where Bill Belichick was being interviewed by the Atlanta Falcons, among others, that she was possibly in the room and was a problem for NFL franchises.
God, are you kidding?
Again, and me guys, the last thing I like to do, I'm very humble about our segments here. The last thing I like to do is pat myself on the back about calling things way ahead of time. But if you will remember, flashback to the Super Bowl suck big board, I pointed out that it was weird as hell that the girlfriend was in the Dunkin' Donuts commercial for no apparent reason.
You called it.
To her level of involvement in his business part of his life was really bizarre, and it seems like it has escalated way the hell up in a few months since.
Brilliant as always, Professor. Fantastic job. I haven't seen a depiction or a dissection of the relationship like that on any media platform. Where as you were unveiling the top 5 things.
I mean, the fact that her ex is a 64-year-old who looks
that
was the giant
20.
That was Jalen Brunson. That was calling game as they shot.
Yeah.
All right, Professor, we got to fly. We'll see you in a few minutes here on Bury Your Bookie. And thanks, as always, for being with us here on the show.
You guys have a great one.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah, Professor, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my God.
All right, Libby, that was classic.
Not wrong about, the problem is he's not wrong about any of it. Like,
no, I mean, it seems readily apparent. Why aren't other shows talking? Where's Stephen A. Smith on this?
We had Glazer in studio, so I like her. A lot of people have a problem with her. They don't know what she is, but I don't mind her. She was nice, and she was funny when we had her in studio. But she's lying. Like, we've dealt with a lot of people. If you hear them, they're not doing, like, they're there, especially in person. You always make fun of our friend.
Oh, the publicist?
They're there and they wave and they do stuff that you do your job and ignore them, but they're never verbal, and they're deaf. Like CBS this morning on a Sunday morning to hear her voice off.
Stops the interview in midstream, almost like our Jason Ward thing was stopped by some waiter in the gold room at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
normally, I mean, it would be a lawyer as they're interviewing some guy that's under indictment for massive amounts of fraud or some criminal white collar thing, and the guy says, well, no, we're not answering that question right now. But the whole thing with Jordan Hudson, is it Jordan? It's Jordan Hudson, right?
Jordan Hudson. Yes,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yep, a little bizarre. Professor illustrated that point, I think, perfectly, almost in an artistic fashion that really was extremely revealing. Is that how they met, though? Or was she working at Asian Spa with Bob Kraft? Is that
Yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like.
'cause, I mean, you would worry as a guy gets older, is old age somewhat of a truth serum as the Alzheimer's sets in and the dementia, where you're more than willing to admit to the truth? Or more willing to admit to the truth than you would have been in the past. Because that story about meeting on a plane seems perfectly innocent, except for the fact that
It seems phony.
way out of the category of doing the math, where the youngest woman that Belichick at his age, 74, should be with would be somebody that was 44, taking his age in half and adding the 7
Yep.
years. We
Well,
got a flag. Lubie, always a pleasure, man. Great job. You didn't get to hammer your Knicks, but
That's fine. Ken did a good job.
yeah, he managed to cover for me. And everybody will see you again on Monday. Check out that Jason Ward thing on Bleacher Brothers. It's a lot of fun. And you will see what was for me, I guess, a broadcasting, especially in this video streaming era, a broadcasting first, where one of our guests is being accosted as he's on the show and just blows it right off and powers right through it. I thought it was excellent on his part. Still was with us for like another 25 minutes.
I
All
love
right,
it.
thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next time as we leave it now that.
The time.
It's 9:13.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done.